Today, we're learning all about the Universal Orlando on-site hotels. This is Go Inform Podcast, episode 56. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to episode 56 of the Go Inform Podcast. I'm your hostess, Maven, and today we are talking about the hotels on site at Universal Orlando Resort. This is a topic that I actually talked about all the way back on episode 2 of the podcast. Way back 3 years ago now, and a lot has changed since then. So a lot has changed, obviously. I'm recording this at the end of 2020, and I am starting to think about 2021, and you guys are probably really thinking about it too. And so I wanted to circle back to one of these really basic topics, because I think that when you start your planning and you start your research for a vacation to Orlando, one of the first places you're going to begin is figuring out where to stay. And since a lot has changed since 2017, when I first recorded the show about the hotels, now I think is a great time to bring it up to date and get you all the information you need to make the decision about whether you want to stay on site, and if so, where you're going to choose to spend that night or nights. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Thanks again for joining me on the show. It's really fun to talk to you guys about this stuff and to think hopefully about the future and everybody, finally getting to do that big vacation. So let's talk about spending some time at Universal Orlando and really staying on the property on site. Today, I'm going to be talking about kind of all the basics about it. So we're going to talk about why I think staying on site is a really good idea for most people, what your options are, and some tips for how to save money when you are booking your hotels, and how to make the most of your stay when you do stay at Universal Orlando. I've got all of this in a really quite comprehensive post on the website. So you can find that over at goinform.net/56. So definitely hop over there after you, or even while you're listening to this, if you want to dive further into the research. Pin that post on your Pinterest board so you've got it for future reference when you start thinking about when you want to go and where you want to stay. I should note that when at the time of this recording, that some of the hotels on site at Universal Orlando are closed. So if you start doing your research during the COVID-19 era, you may find that you can't make reservations at one or more of the places I'm going to talk about. And that is hopefully a temporary situation related to the current operations. So if you're planning your trip for farther out into 2021 or beyond, then you should not have any trouble with that. But don't be discouraged if I talk about a hotel here and you're like, that's where I want to go. As long as you're not traveling in the next couple months, you should have that option available to you. But just a caveat there, if you are thinking about traveling, obviously during 2020, but into 2021, do check out my episode a few episodes back about the COVID-19 operations at Universal, because there are a lot of things that are modified and changed, and you're going to want to know about that. The post related to that is pinned to the top of the website too. So, and that I've been keeping up to date. So just head over to goinform.net and you'll see that as well. Okay, so let me just start, since we're talking about the basics here, let me really get back to the basics with just a real quick overview of Universal Orlando and what is there. So a lot of people think that all that you have at Universal Orlando is Harry Potter World, or maybe just Universal Studios. You're thinking theme parks. So there is a lot more to Universal Orlando Resort than just Diagon Alley or roller coasters. That is definitely a huge reason to go there, but there is a lot that Universal Orlando has to offer. And so what you're going to find there, you're going to find two theme parks. So there's the Universal Studios Florida Park and the Islands of Adventure Park. There's also a major water park called Volcano Bay adjacent to the theme parks, which, by the way, the three parks really, but the two theme parks, Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida, are literally next to each other. So this is not like Disney World where stuff is spread out and it takes a half hour to get between the parks or anything like that. These parks are right next to each other. If you're familiar with the layout at Disneyland in California, this is a lot like that. So you can walk between the parks, and the hotels are all relatively close in. The whole footprint of Universal Orlando compared to Disney World, it's just tiny. This makes it really convenient if you're staying on site because you are really right by the parks. So you've got the two theme parks, you've got the water park, you've also got sort of adjacent and connecting all that, a shopping, entertainment, dining district called Universal City Walk. And City Walk is kind of like a big, huge outdoor mall. And this is connected to the entrances to the parks, at least to the two Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios. So you've got all of this stuff right there. And then adjacent, surrounding, next to all the City Walk and the theme parks are the Universal Orlando hotels. Definitely, in my opinion, Universal is a multi-day experience, especially if you want to do the water park too. But even if you're just going to see the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, that is located in both of the theme parks. So you're going to be visiting two theme parks just to see that part of Universal Orlando, not to mention all the many, many other things that you can see and do there. So I believe that you can do a visit to Universal in one day, and that would be an excellent topic for a future episode. So we'll talk about that in the future, how you can do it in a day. But really, if you really want to see it, you really want to experience the whole thing, I think 2 days is great. And if you can do 3 or maybe like 2.5 days, that's even better. So if you're going to do more than 1 day at Universal, then it really makes sense to stay on site and have the convenience of being right there, for one thing. There are some other real good reasons for staying on site that make your touring a lot more efficient. And we're going to jump into that right now because I think that the benefits of staying on site at Universal Orlando are really make a compelling reason for you to choose one of their hotels for at least one night. I'd say there's kind of 3 major reasons why I think staying on site is good. One is convenience. You really can't beat waking up right next to a theme park. You don't have to worry about getting there. You don't have to worry about, how long it's going to take to get there. You don't have to worry about getting back to wherever you're staying to at the end of the day. Also, if you're staying on site, you have the convenience of going back to your hotel room during the day. At the end of the day, when you're tired and you don't want to, you just want to go back and get in your jammies and eat something in your room, you've got it. You don't have to travel back to another place where you're staying. So the convenience of being on site is definitely a number one factor. Secondly, Universal extends a really nice perk to guests staying in any of their hotels. And this is an early admission every single day of your stay. So no matter which hotel you choose, from the most, value-oriented resort to the most luxury, everyone staying on site is going to get an hour early admission into at least one of the theme parks on every single day of your stay. So this gives you an hour head start from anyone else that's coming in from, say, staying somewhere else. And it's an excellent way to get some of the major headliner attractions out of the way before the crowds come. And you guys know that I always talk about getting there early. Well, if you can get there that extra hour early, it is huge. And, just for example, the Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure roller coaster is amazing in the Wizarding World. And if you can get an hour early admission into the theme park that it is in, then you are going to skip a huge amount of waiting time because you will be there before a lot of the other people. So this kind of thing is really, really powerful. Also, if you think about it, yeah, you're getting up an hour earlier, but if you were staying 45 minutes away, you would also be getting up an hour earlier and showing up, after all the on-site guests are already in the park. So it's really nice to have that extra time in the parks. The way that the early admission works is that typically there's one or the other of the theme parks, and sometimes Volcano Bay also gives you an early admission. If you are there during a really peak time of the year, they will often have all the parks open an hour early. So it just kind of depends on when you go. So keep this in mind as a really good reason to be staying on site. The other thing, which I think is immensely powerful, and I've already dedicated a whole episode to this, is Universal Unlimited Express Pass. And the Express Pass is like a skip the line pass on almost all of the rides in the Universal parks. If you're familiar with Fast Pass at Disney, this is kind of like that, except when you have an unlimited Express Pass, you can go in the Express Pass line as many times as you want all day long and skip the regular wait. Now, Express Pass is something that Universal charges for. But if you stay in one of their Express Pass hotels, you and everyone in your room is going to receive a free unlimited Express Pass for every day of your stay. I am not going to dive too far into how great an Express Pass is and what a huge benefit this is, but I can tell you that this could make the difference of, whether you want to stay on site and which hotel you choose. So we're going to talk a little bit more of that as I get into the facts about the different hotels. But this Express Pass benefit is huge. It's a really smart thing that Universal does to encourage people to stay on site, but it is not offered at every one of the hotels. So let's get into kind of talking about the hotels and the perks and the all the amenities and all that stuff at all the different locations. Oh, also, I should mention, if you want to listen to that episode about Express Pass, which frankly, I think anyone going to Universal, even if you're not staying on site, whatever, you should know about this. That's episode 33. So dial back in the archives and give that one a listen, because you're really going to want to know about this. Even if you don't use an Express Pass, it's really good to have a heads up about how it works and why those other people are skipping the line ahead of you. So there are 8 hotels now at Universal Orlando. I think when I recorded that episode number 2, I believe there was 4 and a 5th one was just about to open. So in the past 3 years, Universal, I think they have actually doubled their room capacity. So there are now something like 1,000 rooms at Universal Orlando, which means that you should be able to choose wherever you want to stay and find a room as long as you're planning ahead. And lots and lots of options here. The other thing is that most of these hotels are brand new. A couple of them just opened this year in 2020. So even the value-oriented hotels, those are actually the newest hotels. So the less expensive hotels are like brand new. And of course, the luxury hotels are fantastic. And they're a little bit older, but everything on property is really quality. So I'm going to start with sort of the high-end hotels and work my way through the list, but really, you can't go wrong. There's just different benefits to staying at the different level of a hotel. So I want to kind of give you the overview of what you can expect at each property and, plus and minus in terms of location and that kind of stuff. So the hotels that are on the property, they are called the Portofino Bay, the Hard Rock Hotel, the Royal Pacific Resort, Sapphire Falls, Aventura Hotel, Cabana Bay Beach Resort, and there's the newest property at Universal Orlando is called the Endless Summer Resort, which is a big, huge property that's actually got two different hotels on it, which they call the Dockside Inn and the Surfside Inn. So you've got 8 different options here, and they really are at all price points. Universal breaks them down into like 4 categories. In my mind, there's really 3 categories here. So the first category is going to be your luxury hotels. This is the Hard Rock Hotel, the Portofino Bay, and the Royal Pacific Hotel. These 3 hotels are the ones that include free unlimited express pass for all their guests. So these are their highest end kind of flagship options. The medium, kind of moderate hotels are going to be the Aventura and the Sapphire Falls. They are going to be comparable to like a Hilton Hotel, Westin Hotel, that kind of thing. Like they're still going to be very nice. They're a little more of a high-rise design, but they don't include the express pass and not quite as luxurious in terms of amenities on site. Then you're going to get to your more moderate, like family-oriented hotels. That's going to be the Cabana Bay Beach Resort and the Dockside Inn and the Surfside Inn. So these hotels are a little more no frills in terms of like restaurants and stuff like that, but very family oriented. They are more suite type hotels. They have, lots of activities on site on the property for families, and their price range is going to be comparable to something like maybe an Embassy Suites or that sort of off property, option. So you've really got 3 different types of hotels that you can choose from. And before you jump to a conclusion, I do want to dive in a little bit more so you can see like what makes each of them unique, because they have done a really good job of creating not only like theming and personality between the different hotels, but also like different perks for staying there, different amenities, different reasons why you might choose one over the other. All right, so let's just start with the flagship hotels, and I'm going to start with the big kahuna, which is the Portofino Bay. Portofino Bay is a gigantic resort that is built to look like a Italian Riviera town, basically. So if you look, I've got pictures on the show notes, which again, you can grab those over at goinform.net/56. And you can see, if you look at a picture of this, you're going to think you're looking at a town in seaside Italy. So even though it's a gigantic bunch of buildings, it looks like a whole bunch of little like Italian houses almost, and there's a lake with boats in it, and it's pretty amazing. Portofino Bay is super luxurious. I mean, this is definitely a 5-star hotel. It's got a lot of dining options. And it is one of the Express Pass hotels. So when you stay in the Express Pass hotels, the day you check in, you're going to get an Express Pass. The day you check out, you're going to get an Express Pass. Actually, your room key is your pass. There is a lot of value in this. These Express Passes can cost upwards of $200 a day per person. Now the hotel is going to cost you something like $300 or $400 a night. And so, just to give you the numbers, but if you really want express passes and you've got more than 2 people in your room, it might be cheaper to stay in the hotel and get the express passes included with your stay than to stay in one of the less expensive hotels and buy an express pass. So this is a big reason that I do recommend that you don't count out these luxury hotels, because depending on when you're going and how you want to see the parks, it can really, really make sense to pay a little more for your room and get the express pass. And again, you can check that out on my episode 33, where I go on and on about it, which I'm not going to do on this episode. So besides getting the express pass, there's a lot of other reasons for staying in these kind of flagship hotels at Universal. And one of the biggest reasons is that these are the hotels that you can easily walk to the theme parks from. So Portofino Bay, it's about a 15-minute walk to the parks. There is also a water taxi that can take you to the parks. It runs pretty frequently and only takes a few minutes. So you have that option as well. But you do have the option to walk to the parks, which is really, really nice. Portofino Bay also has some great dining options. There is a Mandara spa on site at Portofino Bay. There are 3 swimming pools. One of them is like a beach kind of pool. It's got a water slide. And another thing, too, to keep in mind about the Universal Orlando hotels is that many of the hotels actually have themed suites that are designed for families. And the themed suites over at the Portofino Bay are themed after Despicable Me. I'll put a link to Universal's pictures of those suites on the show notes, because they are so cool. They're kid-sized beds are the bomb beds. So just like in Despicable Me. So you can spend the night in a room like that, which is super fun. So those are some of the things that you'll find over at Portofino Bay. Next to Portofino Bay, and just a little bit closer to the theme parks, is the Hard Rock Hotel. And the Hard Rock Hotel happens to be my favorite option at Universal Orlando for a bunch of reasons. First off, this is also an Express Pass hotel, so I love that. Also, the Hard Rock is only like a 10-minute walk from the theme parks. So this is about as close as you can possibly get. It's very, very convenient. And it's so close to the parks, and it's kind of a high-rise hotel, probably maybe 10 stories, that certain rooms have a view right out over into the parks. So I put a picture on the show notes of a view from one of our times we've stayed there, and you can see the Rip Ride Rocket roller coaster over at Universal Studios, and you can even see Hogwarts Castle. So it's very cool. These are the poolside rooms. So if you request a pool view and a higher floor, you're actually going to get a theme park view, which is super fun. So that is really nice. And again, goes back to that convenience of staying close by and feeling like you're really in the action. The Hard Rock, even though you might think, it's themed after, rock and roll. So you would think that it's going to be noisy in there. But honestly, their rooms are super quiet and their beds are like the most comfortable ever. super, super comfortable. So I love staying at the Hard Rock. There's also great dining options in the hotel, and their pool has underwater speakers, which is kind of neat. So you can swim and listen to music. Their theme suites are future rock star suites. So if you want to feel like a rock star, you can stay in their themed suites. They also have the water taxi that can take you to the parks. Oh, and they have the coolest gift shop on site. So if you're looking for some cool Universal Orlando stuff that's not just the usual, they have a very, very cool gift shop. Okay, so then the last of the Express Pass hotels is the Royal Pacific Resort. So Royal Pacific Resort is kind of on the other end of the property. City Walk kind of spans the length of the entrances of the theme parks, and the Portofino Bay and the Hard Rock are on one end of it, and then the Royal Pacific's on the other end. The Royal Pacific Resort is themed after like a modern Hawaiian or South Pacific hotel. So lots of beautiful dark wood, lots of palm trees, that whole feel. They even have a luau, I think, once a week there. So if you want that kind of tropical Hawaiian kind of vibe, this is a great place to stay. The Royal Pacific is, I'd say, about a 15-minute walk to the parks. So, again, not too far away. And same thing with as the others in this category, you can take the water taxi too. So save your feet. The Royal Pacific is often the least expensive of the three Express Pass hotels. And, really, if you're just choosing one of these so that you can get the Express Pass, then, I usually just pick the least expensive one to stay at. It's just as nice as the other two hotels. I think it is a little bit more, there is a conference center kind of adjacent to it. So this hotel is a little bit more, feels a little more like a business hotel once you get into the rooms and inside, a little less themed, but still a great option. I would say that because the conference center is there, you should, if you're basically just there to go to the parks and you're going to go to bed early and all that, ask for a quiet room, because we have been there before when there's people staying there that aren't really there for the parks. They're there for whatever event is next door. And one time we were there and we ended up on the same floor as a bunch of kids that were competing in the Latin version of the show The Voice. I think it's La Voz. And so it was like we ended up with all these show business people on our floor. There was like kids, there was singing, there was dancing in the hallway. They're like rehearsing, right? Because they're going on this big show and we're trying to go to bed and get up early. And it was a little bit of a challenge. So just be aware that that's one of the things that you might run into at Royal Pacific that you may not see at the other Express Pass hotels. But again, if you just tell the front desk you want a quiet room, they should, honor that and get you so you're not on the same floor as all the contestants in La Voz. The hotel is lovely. Again, nice dining options here. Their pool is like a sandy pool, like it's going to the beach. And the theming's really pretty. So this is another really good option if you're looking for kind of that higher end hotel, or if you really want the included Express Pass. Oh, and their themed suites at Royal Pacific are Jurassic World themed. So that's pretty fun too. So that's another cool reason to stay there if you want to do something special. And I know that I think all of us are looking to do something special when we finally get to take these trips. So that is something to keep in mind, is that, maybe upgrade into one of these rooms. These hotels also have club level rooms with the club space and all of that. I don't believe that you're going to see too much of that during the COVID operations, but once things get back to, a little more regular operations, that's a nice option too, because you can end up having, free breakfast or free snacks in the afternoon and that kind of stuff if you stay club level. So keep that in mind, again, if you're looking to kind of plus your trip. Okay, so now we're going to move into the more moderate level hotels. This is Sapphire Falls and Aventura. And these two hotels are actually located right next door to each other. And they're a little less sprawling. They're a little more high-rise oriented, modern properties. Sapphire Falls Resort is another one that's got a tropical theme. This one is themed after the Caribbean. They have a big sandy pool. It's actually 16,000 square feet, their pool, with a water slide. So that's really fun. They have table service dining here, which as we start to move away from the luxury hotels, you're going to see more like food court kind of stuff. But they do have some sit-down restaurants at the Sapphire Falls, and they also are known for their rum bar because I think they actually have their own house distilled rums, and I know that you can do like a rum tasting there, which is pretty fun. So definitely that little slice of the Caribbean. Now, these hotels that we're talking about now are really not very conveniently located in terms of walking to the parks. There's a big, huge street like in between, and a lot of property in between these resorts and the actual entrance to City Walk and then the entrance to the parks. So for the most part, what you're going to be looking at here is bus transportation. It's just a shuttle bus that runs pretty much continuously in a big loop to these resorts and then over to the parks. So you do have a little bit more transportation time probably than you would if you stay in the other hotels, but it's still very close by and really quite convenient. So at Sapphire Falls, you're still going to get the early admission, just like at any of the hotels, and the great theming, and, just the convenience of being on site. Their themed family suites are beach themed, so not quite as exciting as Jurassic World, but they do still have some themed suites here. Price level at Sapphire Bay, what I notice is that it's basically the price of the stay at Royal Pacific minus the value of a couple of express passes. So a lot of times, if express pass is important to you, for the price of 2 express passes, you can just get a room at Royal Pacific and have that included and be able to walk to the park. So that's, for me, that's kind of the math that I do. But, if, like, for example, if you're thinking you want to spend a lot of time by the pool, they have an incredible pool there. This is also located closer to Volcano Bay than those Express Pass hotels. So Volcano Bay is in the same area of these hotels that I'm going to talk about now. And if not walking distance, it's a very short shuttle ride. So depending on why you're coming to Universal Orlando, time of year and that kind of thing, Sapphire Falls can make a lot of sense for a lot of people. Right next door to Sapphire Falls is the Aventura Hotel. This is a high-rise hotel. I think it's the highest of any of the on-site hotels at Universal Orlando. It's cool. It's like in a kind of almost figure 8 shape, and all glass, very modern looking, very clean aesthetic. Aventura has a pretty cool version of a food cart. It's really, they call it a food hall, and I think that's apt. They have a whole bunch of different stations in there with all kinds of interesting foods, really good food. And on the top of the hotel is an outdoor bar with light food. So if you're there during the appropriate season weather-wise, The bar on top of the Aventura is pretty cool because the view is amazing. You can see not only the theme parks, but 360 degrees all around Orlando. So that is a very neat reason to at least visit the hotel, if not to stay there. But the other thing is that the rooms, because, you know, you can get up pretty high, the view from the rooms is really great too. Aventura, again, kind of moderately priced, usually a little lower price than Sapphire Falls. But again, just kind of depends on when you're going and what's happening there. They aren't known for a fancy pool, but they do, of course, have a pool with a splash zone for the kids and even fire pits, which is kind of fun. And their family suites aren't themed, but they do have them. So this is another option, especially I think for, you know, maybe just a couple without kids. It's kind of simple. It's not super themed, and the food's great, and it's easy, you know, transportation to the parks. Okay, so across the street from Aventura and Sapphire Falls is the Cabana Bay Beach Resort. And this is just a kick. The Cabana Bay is designed to look like a mid-century motel, basically, but in all good ways. So cool, like just even the color scheme. And if you look at it, you just feel like, you know, it's the 60s. They have, their gym is Jack LaLanne themed, which half of you guys probably don't even know who that is, but he was a fitness guy from like the 50s and beyond. And so somehow they have his name, licensed his name for their gym. They have a really big pool complex. They have a lazy river at this resort. This is a big resort. The price level is really affordable. This is designed to bring people in without having to pay a lot of money. You're not getting an express pass here, but you are, of course, still getting the early admission, and you are getting the, free transportation to the parks. This is right next to Volcano Bay. So I think you actually can walk to Volcano Bay from the Cabana Bay Resort. And you can actually get a volcano view rooms at Cabana Bay. And so then you can see from your window, you can see the volcano at Volcano Bay, which at night it lights up and looks like it's got lava running down it. So that is super cool. There's a ton of stuff to do on site at Cabana Bay, not just the lazy river, but there's like 2 pools, there's a water slide, there's a bowling alley, just a lot of cool stuff. So this is a nice place if you want stuff to do besides just, go to the theme parks. Or maybe you have a bigger family and some people want to be in the park all day and some don't. Some just want to lay in the lazy river. This is a great option. You have to pay admission to go to Volcano Bay, but when you're staying in the hotel, you're not paying admission to hang out in the lazy river. So that's really nice. The Cabana Bay is kind of the first hotel that Universal built that is kind of more suite and family oriented. So you're going to find a lot of options for family-oriented suites, including 2-bedroom, 2-bath suites that have a kitchenette. And your price here is going to be very competitive. A little bit higher price than the Dockside Inn and the Surfside Inn, which we're going to chat about in a second. But definitely a real affordable for most families. I mean, these hotels that we're talking about now, you'd be hard pressed to find a decent place outside of Universal at the same price, other than at Disney World, where they also have some really great rates on their value resorts. And when we get into the new year, we're going to talk about the hotels over there. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so then there's 2 more options of where you can stay at Universal, and these are part of their new Endless Summer Resort. And the actual hotels are called the Surfside Inn and the Dockside Inn, and they are right next to each other on this big piece of property. Now, these hotels are farther away from the parks, separated by a few big roads and a lot of distance. So you will be taking a bus, or I suppose you could drive. I would just take the free bus to get over to the theme parks from here. But what you get at these hotels is this almost an all-suite experience. So this is going to be, again, a lot like an Embassy Suites, that a Residence Inn, like that kind of feel. Many of the rooms are going to be 2 bedrooms with a kitchenette designed to sleep up to 6 people. The theming at these hotels, if you can't guess, is kind of like beachy. So the Surfside has like a surfboard style table in the room, that kind of stuff. Even their pool is surfboard shaped, which is cute. Food options here, and I didn't really mention at Cabana Bay either, but these are all going to be like more like food court type options for you. But the price is great. I mean, a lot of times you're going to find rooms here up for $100 a night. So these are designed to, really give families an option to stay on site. Universal wants you to stay on site. They want you to stay there. They want you to go to their parks. And these resorts are meant to, bring people in. So the Surfside Inn is smaller of the two by about half. So Surfside Inn has like 750 rooms, I think it is. And the Dockside Inn is like 2,000 rooms. So these are combined a huge inventory of rooms at Universal. And that's going to keep the price down. I mean, honestly, supply and demand, right? So if you're looking for a lot of space without spending a lot of money and you want to be on site, these 2 hotels are brand new. This is a great option for you. Now, there's a few things to keep in mind about staying on site too that I haven't mentioned yet. One of them is that Universal allows pool hopping, which means that no matter which hotel you're staying at, you can go to one of the other ones and use the pool. So even if you're staying at the Dockside Inn and there's 2,000 rooms and they're full and the pool's full, and you want to go over to the Hard Rock and hang out at their pool and swim in the water with the underwater speakers, you can. You show your room key and you can get in there. So if you stay more than a few days, this is pretty neat too, because it means that it's easy. You can go, you don't have to just go to your same pool. You can go to any of them, which is really fun. And Disney doesn't do that, by the way. So this is a nice thing, that perk that Universal extends to their guests. And don't forget that no matter where you stay, you're getting that early admission. And I have some episodes in the past here about how to make the most of those early admission hours. That will probably get updated here in 2021 also, but you can really get a feel for how much you can do in that hour if you listen to those episodes. So give that a listen. The other thing that we think, this is just a little thing that we think is really fun staying at the on-site hotels, is the wake-up call options. So in the hotels, yes, wake-up calls is still a thing. I recommend using it as one of the ways to get yourself up and moving early in the morning for the parks. And the options at Universal are pretty great. They have, you can have the Transformers or Spider-Man wake you up, which is really fun. So it's just another one of those little touches that reminds you that you are on a special vacation and kind of helps keep you in the, the fantasy of it. Okay, so a couple tips too in terms of saving money when you're going to stay on site at Universal. One thing that makes a big difference in how much you're going to pay is just when you go. So if you can go at a non-peak time, you're going to save money on your stay and you're going to have fewer crowds. So if you're able to, take a look at a crowd calendar, take a look at touringplans.com. They have an excellent crowd predictor for Universal. And I would recommend checking that out if you're able to just kind of pick any time to go. If you, have to go during the school breaks or whatever, you're going to pay a little bit more. But there are other ways to save money on your rooms. One of them is consider getting an annual pass. And I did do an episode about that. It was episode 40. And, things might have changed a little bit, but I still believe that having an annual pass might be worth it for you if you're going to stay on site. Universal almost always has at least a few of their properties discounted for annual pass holders, and the discounts are like 25, 30% sometimes. So that is a huge savings and might actually make up for the cost of an annual pass. Only one person in your room has to have an annual pass to get the discount. So keep that in mind. Check out that episode if this is intriguing to you, because this is a good way to save money. Another thing that you should keep in mind is that unlike Disney, at Disney, their hotels are run by them. Here at Universal, some of the hotels are run by Universal, but some of them are run by outside organizations. So, for instance, the Hard Rock is run by a Hard Rock. So they have their own loyalty plan. So if you have loyalty points at Hard Rock, you might be able to use that to get an upgrade or discount on your room. And some of these hotels are run by the Loews hotel chain. And same thing, they have their own loyalty program. You can earn points at Loews. If you stay in one of these hotels here, you can use points to upgrade, to get a discount, whatever. The Loews hotels at Universal are the Portofino Bay, the Royal Pacific, and the Sapphire Falls. So if you are a Loews loyalty member, take a look at booking your hotel using some points, because you may be able to save some money. Or again, just make sure you earn points when you stay there. One other tip is to talk to a travel agent, because a lot of times Universal, they want people to buy their package, that includes the hotel and the park tickets and maybe some transportation from the airport or, various things. These kind of packages are often booked by travel agents, and they will often offer travel agents special deals that you just can't get on your own. So if you talk to a travel agent, they may be able to actually save you some money on your stay, or get you like a free shuttle from the airport, or any kind of number of things. And as I've been saying, using a travel agent, it makes a ton of sense, because if something happens and you have to change your plans, let's hope we don't have to. But you guys, if you have to change plans, if something happens, having a travel agent, they can handle it for you. So that's a great way to look at getting a better deal, and also just for your own sanity and convenience, a good thing. So consider working with a travel agent. And one other thing that I haven't touched on here, but this will definitely be an upcoming episode, is that you can easily combine a stay at Universal Orlando with your Disney World vacation. So you can split your stay between, stay part of the time at Universal and part of the time at Disney, or you could stay at Universal and just visit Disney from there too. People do that. This is not hard to do. The two destinations are like a half an hour apart. So keep in mind that it's really easy to stay in both places and just split your stay, for example. So I do have a post on the website all about this, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes. But just keep in mind, it's not an either or situation. You can definitely do all those things, even if you just have 4 or 5 days in Orlando. So make sure you check out the show notes, guys. That's over at goinformed.net/56. And thanks so much for subscribing to the show. I'm looking forward to bringing you lots more cool stuff. I hope this is helping you start to think ahead and, getting you a chance to dive a little deeper into, some of the details for whatever you are planning. Thanks, too, for following me over on social media. Just a reminder, You can, I've got all kinds of stuff I'm putting up all the time on Facebook, on Pinterest, on Instagram. I'm at GoInformNet in all of those spots. So make sure you follow me over there and let me know if you have any questions. You can reach out to me easy through direct message on Instagram and Facebook. So thank you so much for that. And I hope you guys have fun with your planning. And when you go on your trip, I hope you have a lovely vacation.